So we would like to thank everyone that's here standing with us today. Since late March, racist police terror has been making headlines again in Sarasota. The common denominator in this incident has been police officer Brandon Vermillion, who is known widely in the Newtown community for his brutality and harassment towards the Black community, and who has the support of Police Chief Bernardine DiPino. On March 22nd, in Newtown, Chad Washington was visiting his fiancée, Darnisha McMillan, when he began to have seizures and vomiting. McMillan called emergency medical services for help, but no ambulance ever showed up. 30 minutes later, however, the Sarasota Police Department intruded into the apartment without warning. According to McMillan, 2 police officers charged Washington to the floor and began punching, choking, and tasing him. Minutes later, a neighbor captured a cell phone video of Officer Brandon Vermillion slamming a taser repeatedly into Washington's back as Washington cried out in pain. Trapped between the police car and officers, Washington crawled onto the ground but could barely move as officers punched with their fists with handcuffs, breaking his nose as Officer Vermillion continued to tase him 13 times. Meanwhile, McMillan's children screamed in fear and anger at the police. Washington was charged with battery on an officer and remains incarcerated at the time of this writing. The officers were subject to no disciplinary action. Chief DiPino also offered no criticism of police, of their conduct or policy, and in fact, she expressed that she was proud of her officers' handling of the situation. The second incident occurred approximately 3 weeks later when Officer Brandon Vermillion, the same primary assailant in Chad Washington's case, again used excessive force, this time against 3 unarmed Black teenagers, 2 of whom are minors, who were sitting in an SUV in a residential area. Vermillion fired his gun at the vehicle multiple times, inflicting serious gunshot wounds at 2 of the 3 youth. Vermillion claims to have approached the vehicle because it looked suspicious, being parked in a public place at nighttime and invoking the standard excuse he claims to have fired upon because he was in fear for his life as the teenagers drove away. Jeremy Trebles, 18, who was shot 3 times by Vermillion, is currently being held at the Sarasota County Jail, facing charges of allegedly endangering the officer who shot him. He and the other youth are still have traumas in their bodies. Jeremy's injuries require extensive surgeries. Because of this, he was unable to attend his high school graduation and his acceptance into the university of his choice, previously secure, and even that is now in jeopardy. All this while, he continues to recover from traumatic gunshots that, in reality, he could have easily been killed. The third incident occurred approximately 3 weeks ago. Sarasota police officers and Officer Vermillion attacked again at a wedding party of a Latino family not far from Newtown. After a brief family altercations, when neighbors may have called the police, Vermillion and other officers showed up and began tasing, macing, beating family members. Several family members, some of whom did not speak English, were placed in handcuffs and then brutally kicked and beaten after they were already in handcuffs. The police report was filled with outright fabrications and errors. 4 family members now face charges. 2 remain in jail, including the groom, where their physical and mental health is suffering. The case, currently pending trial, is the 3rd example of police brutality and excessive force at the hands of the Sarasota Police Department against people of color since March. Currently, there is no legitimate method of police accountability in the city of Sarasota. The decision of whether or not officers acted appropriately is ultimately left up to the police department. There is, however, a facade of police brutality, where it's used to deceive the public about the undemocratic and unjust process by which the police is investigated and disciplined. There are two entities in the city of Sarasota that were created in 2011 in response to community outrage after a Hispanic man was brutalized by the police. The Police Advisory Panel meets quarterly, and the Police Complaint Committee, which meets every month. Both of these panels are considered independent. However, the Chief of Police is present at every advisory panel meeting and is considered a staff support. Similarly, the Commander of the Internal Affairs is present at each Police Complaint Committee meeting. There can be no independent discussions of police conduct, and there are no advocates of the police department present at these panels. I'm sorry, when there are. There can be no discussion of police conduct where there are advocates of the police department present at the panels. On the Police Advisory Committee, Chief DiPino does nothing but assure the members of the panel that she is proud of her staff and that every instance the use of force has been deemed appropriately. The panel has no choice but to accept her word for it, and there's no process set in place to prove otherwise. Both of these entities operate solely in an advisory capacity and have no power to hire, fire, or implement disciplinary action against a police officer. The Police Complaint Committee receives investigations of complaints that have already been closed. Let me repeat that. The Police Complaint Committee receives investigations of complaints that have already been closed. These investigations are done by the police department itself, not by an independent entity. The Complaint Committee then reviews the investigation, and if they have issues, they can make suggestions, but those suggestions go straight back to the Chief of Police, who has the ultimate decision about whether or not to follow their recommendation. Essentially, the committee is powerless. There is no accountability. This is a sham. We not only have no choice about who patrol our streets, but we also have no control over whether or not they get fired or disciplined. These are people who are armed and have the right to use force whenever they deem necessary. They are treated as if they are above the law. They can choose to harass and use force against any member of the community under the pretense that they witness disorderly misconduct or that they fear for their lives. This type of uncontrolled power should not be acceptable to anyone. The community has no formal way to stop officers like Brandon Vermillion, a man who has terrorized 3 families in the past month. And this has to stop. The police cannot police themselves. We need community control of the police. To that end, there are several first steps that must be taken. First, Officer Brandon Vermillion must be fired and criminally prosecuted. Tasing an innocent man 13 times in front of his family, shooting at minors in a moving vehicle, and brutalizing an entire family at a wedding party should be more than enough grounds to get an officer off the streets. Yet Chief DiPino has expressed nothing but pride at Vermillion's conduct. This truly exposes the character of our police force. Most importantly, we also demand that all charges of those locked up, in confrontation with Vermillion over the past 3 months be released from jail and all charges dropped. We will not stop raising awareness and putting pressure at the appropriate bodies until there is justice. And we will not stop until there is an end to police violence in our community. Thank you. And we have here with us the family of Jeremy Trebles, who will say some words.
today, I'm not going to speak on what the officer has done, but what I will speak on is what God is about to do. Every person that he has given power and authority over someone, he gives you that within reason and for you to use it in righteousness. But when you begin to abuse your authority, your rope begins to untwine. And once it untwines, you leave yourself in a place that will bring back things that you have done, said, and hurt other people. God is a good God and a just God. They say that we have no one that we can go to correct the problems at hand. But I stand here to correct that today, because the man that I know and serve is above all man and all evil, that will correct everything that has been done wrong. So to the families, I pray for you. I'm asking God to continue to give us strength, to continue to heal our families, our children, and to be able to erase all the things that they're seen and have heard. Because this brings a breakdown of our families and of our communities. When we're supposed to be able to trust someone that's supposed to protect us, we are now living in fear and don't know, should we call them in our time of need. But today, I'm letting you all know that everything that has been set in place, we will come out with a victory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'm going to show the picture of Jeremy. This is a picture of Jeremy. He's only 18. He happened to just bring his high school team to the state championship in football just before this incident happened, a week or two before that happened. And he was supposed to be walking along the rest of his graduating class and making plans to go to college, another month or so. And instead, he's right here locked up with charges for doing nothing but hanging out in an SUV, And the one that should really be in jail right now is Officer Vermillion. He shot into a moving car, a car that was moving away from him. He was never in danger for his life because the car was moving away from him again. It's truly luck that Jeremy is still with us today and the other youth that was also shot. But we are here to demand justice for him and for Shad Washington, to demand that the state attorney drops all charges against them. We have a letter that we will be delivering to the state attorney. These families that we mentioned are truly victims of the Sarasota Police Department and misconduct and brutality on behalf of Officer Vermillion. And that's the stand that we need to take, and we need to be on the right side of justice. They need to be set free. They need to be put out of jail. Their charges need to be dropped, and Officer Vermillion needs to be not only fired, but also criminally prosecuted. And that's our message here today. We also have a message to the Chief of Police, DiPino. We will not stop. We will have justice in this city. The Sarasota Police Department will not continue to run the streets, outlaw basically, above the law. Police officers commit acts of brutality all the time. She has no real process of accountability. When people file a complaint with the Sarasota Police Department, that complaint goes to 2 police officers. And just so people know, those 2 police officers, within hours of you filing the complaint, they notify that police officer, not only that a complaint was filed against them, but they give them all of the information of the person who filed the complaint. All of the information. Within hours, they are notified. So there's no true investigation here when two police officers are just conducting an investigation on their colleagues. Think about this, colleagues, right? What do we do as colleagues, right? We go to each other's weddings, we attend each other's baby showers, we mingle together, we have our Christmas parties together. So two police officers are the one conducting investigation on the rest of the department. Completely not independent, complete biased investigations, and that has to change. We are calling for Jeremy Trebles and Chad Washington to be let out of jail, for charges against them to be dropped, for Officer Vermillion to be fired, and for criminal charges to be filed against him, and also for complete independent community oversight of the police. Thank you. We also have Darnisha. She is Chad Washington's fiance.
I'm here today because I want justice for Chad. I'm here because I want justice for Chad. He was brutalized and tased by Brandon Vermillion for no reason at all, only because of the color of his skin. Brandon traumatized my children. He didn't care about my children being there present, and he did it right in front of them with no care. And from that day on, my children have been traumatized. They've been crying. They can't sleep at night. It's very hard for them to cope with everyday life because of the incident, and myself as well. I don't trust the officers at all to come in contact with myself or my children. Right now, I have a pending case on me due to an officer making a false report on me, and I know it's because of retaliation, and it's not fair to me that they are retaliating against me because I'm standing up for what's right. And I don't care, because I'm going to still stand behind Chad until justice is served. Officer Vermillion needs to be fired and convicted for his negligence. He did not do the proper protocol. He walked into my home unannounced, and they were never called. So for them to show up is absurd, and they didn't give him any type of assistance that he needed. EMS never arrived to my home. I believe they were dispatched to clear, so they wouldn't arrive. And Chad was sent to the hospital and immediately arrested right after that and sent to jail. He's still incarcerated to this day on charges on battery on officers. He never battered officers. Chad needs to be out of jail. Those charges need to be dropped because they are not true, and he deserves to be free from all charges, because that was awful for the officer to just do that with no care. And I want to say this to the chief. She needs to stand down. She definitely needs to come off of the the force. She needs to step down and give it to another, let somebody else get in a chair that's actually going to be fair to the people. We all deserve a fair like decision at the end of the day. We all are hurting from all the tragedies that have happened to us. And we all as one feel the same exact way towards the chief. We don't feel safe talking to them or being around them. We don't trust them at all. And I don't want to talk to them. And I've told them that numerous times because I don't trust them. Because I know they turn everything against us and make us look wrong. So she's upholding her officers for every wrong thing that they've done. And for her to say it's right, it's not right. It's not right at all. They all need to be arrested. All of them. Not just Brandon, all the officers that were there present needs to be arrested. Because they all played an act and part in it, and all of them were wrong. None of them stood up for what was right that day, even all of them. So I just hope that justice is served at the end of the day, and if it's not, it's going to be served. So we're not going to stop until we get justice for all families that's up here today. We all need justice. And as you can see, we all are black. So we're tired of it. It's always happening in the black communities, Latino communities. They pick on homeless people. These officers are sick, and they don't deserve to be out here in the streets at all. They don't treat us like human beings. And we deserve to be treated equal, and we're not. We're not treated equal at all. Our children aren't treated equal. We are not treated equal as a whole. So we're tired. Thank you.
What?
Hello. This isn't anything new to me. Of course, my name is Natasha Clemens. My son's name is Rodney Mitchell, who was killed execution style by 2 Sarasota sheriff deputies. What a coincidence. I'm here to stand with these families because I understand how it feels. Yet my situation is worse because my son is no longer exists. Yet I am his voice. I'm asking Chief DePino to stand up for what's right. Because just like Rodney was my son, she has children of her own. She needs to think about doing what's right. It's not right that I had to lose my son. It's not right that, Chad had to be beat down, taken to jail, and it's most certainly not right for Jeremy to miss out on his graduation and a chance to go to college and to pursue his dreams. All I'm asking you to do, Chief, is to stand up and do what's right. And that's just it. Take these officers, these killer officers off the street. They've done enough. They need psych evaluations. We need a committee that will stand for the Latino and the African American community. We need, like it was back when I was a young girl, those officers were my family. Now we don't know who these officers are. I refuse to call for help if I need help. I would not do it because what happens is that I'll end up dead. And that's the bottom line. So I'm asking you, Chief, just do what's right. How hard is that? Thank you.
Thank you so much for all those of you that came to participate in this today. We don't want to put pressure only on Chief DePino, but also on the state attorney, as the state attorney does have the power to drop the charges against the victims of the Sarasota Police Department. So we want to put pressure on the state attorney to drop the charges. They are real victims here of the same police officer as we have seen, and those charges need to be dropped and they need to be let out of jail immediately. We will take your questions now. Brian? Anybody has questions? There's no question?
It's fine.
It's fine? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.